In other company news, Anglo American Platinum has delivered earnings before tax of 12.3 billion rand, translating to headline earnings of 6.5 billion rand for the first 6 months. It's also emerged that the firm is contemplating listing on the London Stock Exchange, as it will soon demerge from its parent company. It has finalized 60% of a review of workers to be affected by this. Over 2,000 employees have already been retrenched since February this year, with the remainder expected later this year. CEO Craig Miller joins us virtually to further this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Quite a fair showing in your interim results. What has been the reaction?
Good afternoon. I think the reaction has been somewhat pleased with the work that we've undertaken at the beginning of the year, as we really reset the business to be sustainable into the future, given the low PGM price environment. And I think the market has recognized that the hard work that the teams have deployed over the last 6 months to deliver what is a relatively resilient set of results, and I think sets us up well into the second half of the year. And as we look forward to being a standalone entity following the demerger from Anglo American in 2025.
Talk us through the demerger process. So where do you stand currently, and are you still happy with that decision going forward?
So yes, as you can imagine, the decision by Anglo American to demerge Anglo American Platinum from its stable has now, the work around that has now commenced, and we're all of our teams together with Anglo American are working on that demerger process. And as you introduced, one of the things that we've worked upon in the last few weeks is assessing where else we should be listed, and on which stock exchange. And we've decided to look for a potential listing, a secondary listing on the London Stock Exchange. And that's really just a reflection of the shareholders of Anglo American, who will become new shareholders of Anglo American Platinum. And it makes sense for us to look at that potential in London. And so that's some of the work that we have underway. In addition to the work that we have underway in the business in terms of driving that operational excellence. So the business is very much focused around continuing to deliver on the commitments that we set up at the beginning of the year, and then also a group of people working through the demerger and the separation as we untangle ourselves from the group.
It's interesting, London. What makes that destination that attractive?
So Anglo American today is listed on the London Stock Exchange. A number of its shareholders in the UK or in North America or in Europe will be able to continue to hold Anglo American Platinum shares if we have that secondary listing. And that's been one of the key drivers around that secondary listing. But I want to just stress the primary listing will continue to be here in South Africa on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa. So it's very much potential secondary listing in order to mitigate some of the impact of a flow back as a result of the demerger. But it really also creates an opportunity for us to set ourselves up as a leading PGMs producer, and I think will attract a number of shareholders to own Anglo American Platinum into the future, and having the flexibility of is something that we think is interesting, and will set us up for long-term success.
As a parting shot, this does come at the detrimental cost of jobs being lost. Talk us through that process, and how is it that the company is looking to maybe minimize the scale of job losses?
Yes, so as I referenced a little bit earlier, earlier this year, we did embark upon an action plan that required us to really reset our cost base in order to endure ourselves during this low price environment and really set ourselves up for a sustainable future. So we initiated various programs across the company, really set around reducing our total capital and cost expenditure by 10 billion rand. We've realized about 4.7 billion of that at the half year. And then linked to that, we needed to make the difficult decision to reduce our headcount. So we announced a 3,700 job reduction in February. We've progressed about 75% of that at the half year, and I expect to conclude the rest of that restructuring in the second half of this year. But importantly, as difficult as that decision is, and has been, we really do need to ensure that we protect the jobs of the remaining 18,500 people who work for Anglo American Platinum. And that's where our focus is. And I'm pleased with the delivery that we've been able to make in the first half, and gives us confidence around the success into the second half. And as I said, as a standalone entity into the future.
Craig Miller, thank you so much for your time. Amplats CEO, they're talking to us about their interim results and the latest developments at the miner.